Hello and welcome to Confessions of a Writer again. My name is Kim and I am a hopeful writer in training, in transition, wanting to become a full-time writer. And this is my venue to talk to you about the process, what I've gone through, what I'm going through to become a writer, the journey, the ups and downs, the heartache, the elation, all of that good stuff. Although I have yet to really experience that elation part, I have in small doses, especially when writing. That is when I truly feel the most comfortable and the most excited. But yeah, so this is my channel and it's just me talking to you. Hopefully you feel a connection and can relate to the things that I'm going through. Maybe some of what I share with you will help you in your writing. Maybe you can share back with me in the comments below about your experience and what has helped you. And if you are one of those extraordinarily lucky human beings to be a published writer, then I congratulate you wholeheartedly. It is probably one of the harder things to become in this world, along with acting and singing and directing and being in movies and all of that stuff. I think this truly is one of the hardest professions. So in the last few videos, the first one I did a basic introduction of myself and given you a bit of a glimpse into what has transpired for me for this whole writing process so far. Sorry, I have some notes today so I can stay focused. So if you see me look down, that's why. The second video was about blocking out time and finding your inspiration for writing and where that inspiration can come from. The third video was about the writing process and getting your work professionally edited, and I'm actually going to talk a bit more about my writing process and some sort of tricks that I've learned that work for me along the way today. And then the last video I spoke about different genres and how to pick one that best suits you and your personality and your writing style. Yeah, so this video I'm going to actually go through, as I said, more of the writing process and some things to sort of be mindful of and watch out for, and then something else might come up as I'm talking. So if I sort of veer off course, I apologize. And I will get to the whole publishing aspect of this, even though, and I'm going to say this with kind of my head down, that I have yet to be published, and I am in the process of trying to find an agent and go through all of that. So this is a cathartic thing for me to do as well, because it kind of lets go of some of the heartache and angst and self-doubt that can come along with this whole process. So it's really nice for me to talk through everything as well and to maybe think, okay, maybe I'm not on the wrong track, and I appreciate you being on the receiving end of this. And if you have any comments or questions or feedback yourselves, I am so open to all of that and really appreciate it. So moving forward, the first thing I wanted to talk to you today about keeping in mind is if you are writing like I am, where you have multiple different areas. For me, it's kingdoms. I have one big realm with a few different kingdoms that are vastly different one from the next. And I also transition from the past to the present, and eventually I'll be going into the future as well. So there's different timelines happening. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming on. One more. Excuse me, I apologize. No COVID virus, I promise. It's just a sneeze. And then different characters, and I have serums that one of my characters develops. I have different titles of books in my stories. I have different ways that characters speak, the language they use. I have a variety of mythical creatures that we've created. So there is a lot to keep track of, and you want to make sure that from one story to the next, it's all fluid and continuous. It makes sense. Everything has the same name. If you've created something, an invention or something that you keep its name throughout the stories, you keep your characters' names the same, especially if you have a ton of characters, the timelines need to make sense. Your information or how you're portraying the story, even if it's all made up and mythical, it still has to be plausible and be rooted in some realism. So I'm just going to show you, this is my notebook. Remember I told you how I keep my ideas and everything in a notebook? Well, I also keep all of my things to do with all of my kingdoms and everything. So my serums and elixirs, and then I also keep timelines. So I've got a timeline where I say start of the story, and then for each place or each tale, I write down the events that happen, so that I can keep track of that. And then I do the age of the children, because my children are aging throughout the stories, and I want to make sure that I continue along those lines. I want to make sure I have consistent characters. I'm linking some of my characters in the past and then showing how that relationship has impacted things in the future. So I need to make sure I keep that all clear. So I do that by keeping very, very detailed notes on everything, keeping timelines, so I make sure everything relates to one another, and that the ages all match in the past and the present and the future. So it's very important that you somehow make sure that the events in your story match, that your characters match, that your creations match, and that all of that is in sync with one another. Very, very, very important. It's hugely time consuming, and you have to go back in your work to make sure, but it's also incredibly important, because any inconsistency for a reader is going to be like a mind block as they're reading and say, wait a second, I don't think that character was that age back then, and that doesn't make sense. So you don't want anything to not make sense in your stories. So that's how I have tackled that part. And I also was going through, and I know that sentence starters and coming up with new names and characters and all that kind of stuff can be a really daunting, difficult task. So the one trick that I have used is a synonym dictionary. So if I'm coming up with a name for a character and I want it to be related to a character trait or to a place, then I will also say, I'll say synonyms for beauty, or names that mean beauty through different cultures or whatever. And then that can be a way to kind of get you past that mental block of, okay, well, I have this character and I want to name her something really interesting and I have no idea where to start. So even lists of baby names can help with character naming. But if you want the name to be meaningful, you can always try names that actually mean something, that have to pertain to your character. Even from a different culture or a different language can be really interesting too. As far as the synonyms for words, I use that all the time, the synonym dictionary. I will say, you know, I'm trying to find another name for courage, or another way to say courage. So I'll just type in synonyms for courage or courageous or whatever it is, and they'll come up with different ways to say it. And you can do that for sentence starters as well. Because sometimes you kind of get in the rut of saying the same or starting sentences the same way, and of course you want to make your writing engaging and want to pull the reader in right out of the gate. So you want it to be really exciting and kind of, say things in different ways so that the reader is not reading the same thing over and over and over again. So there's that. And then what else did I want to, and like in my kids' school, they use the word, or in my children's schools, they use juicy adjectives and juicy words. And of course, I think the more descriptive that you can be without going overboard, and I have been told that I too can be overly descriptive, and I have to kind of cut things back because I do like to go into detail, especially when it comes to describing what a character looks like or their personality traits or that kind of thing. I can tend to ramble on. I'm sure you did not get that about me at all from these videos. There's no rambling at all. So I have a tendency to do that. So I definitely need to be mindful of that as well. And then keeping your work believable, even if it is a completely fantastical world that you're created. It could be a world of vampires or werewolves or mythical creatures or knights in shining armor, although there is definite truth to that if you go back in our history, especially, in British history and everything like that. So it's good if you can root your fantastical world in some sort of true historical fact or true something that is plausible, believable, something that is true. I know that I mentioned before that one of my characters creates serums and remedies and medicines and stuff, and even though I am not a physician, I do not have any medical training whatsoever, I very much want those serums to make sense and to be plausible, and so I actually look up remedies for blah blah blah, certain things, and then I will take bits and pieces of that and sort of work it into the serum so that it is believable. And the same goes through with my inventions and everything like that. Even though they are completely made up, I want them to be steeped in some sort of realism. So when the character is reading this, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, instead of, or sorry, not the character reading it, the reader reading it. Yeah, that makes sense, and that, okay, I get where that's going, and that's really cool, and yeah, I can see that actually happening. So I think having some realism in there is really important as well. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. The main thing is keeping track of all of your timelines and characters and descriptions, and if you're going back and forth between the past and the present, or the present and the future, to make sure that everything matches up and lines up. If you are creating different things, that you make sure that you know what the name of it is and you describe it the same. And so you want to make sure you have continuity between your writing, and making sure, and whether it's taking notes or however it works for you. For me, I do like the handwriting instead of typing it on a computer. I like to have it right by my side, but I find that really keeps me grounded. And if I forget, because some of my characters aren't going to show up until later on, then I can go back and say, oh yeah, and my kids, it's like, okay, I'm at the 4th story now. How old are they? How old are they supposed to be? And I can go back and track that really easily. And then again, using those juicy, wonderful words, using a synonym dictionary online, or words that are meaningful, that mean ocean or blue or whatever the case is that relates to your characters, can be a place to start, because it's sometimes really tricky to come up with brand new everything in this day and age after so many books have been written. So, and what was that? Oh yeah, and researching, putting, it shows that you've put a whole lot of thought and effort into your writing. And of course, with thought and effort, you want to also put your heart and your soul, which I think most writers do anyway. So I think that's where we're going to leave off today. Thank you so much for joining me again. And as I said, this is meant to be a conversation, although it's clearly one-sided at the moment. But I would love some comments or feedback. If you have any tricks of the trade that really work for you and would like to share, please consider this a forum to do so. All right, I hope this video message finds you safe and healthy and happy and feeling some sense of pride in who you are and what you're doing and what you've accomplished. And I look forward to seeing you again. All right, thanks so much. Take care. See you next time.